Hi, Alan Cox here. Does your organization ever have a need to segment parts of its business so that certain groups or certain departments or certain geographical locations cannot or should not communicate with each other via Teams or what have you? Um, it could be regulatory reasons, it could be an ethical reasons, it could be um, maybe a merger acquisition or something that's upcoming, and you want to make sure that that information doesn't get leaked out. Well, that is the exact purpose of information barriers inside of Microsoft Purview, and we're going to dive in, and that's going to be our topic. So let's get ready. We're going to discuss information barriers. So let's get started. All right, let's dive right in, and we'll um, take a look at information barriers inside of Microsoft Purview. So, as sort of a summary or a recap, information barriers allow us to take sections of our business called segments and sort of isolate them so that they cannot communicate with each other. So, for example, we might have a sales team, and anybody in the sales department, you do not want to communicate with the finance department for whatever reason. Could be some ethical reasons where you might have, financial advisors cannot um, cannot chat with or collaborate with, say, um, traders or something to that effect, right? So, just a way for us to kind of segment our business. And so we're going to take a look at that here in Microsoft Purview in purview.microsoft.com. And we are going to go to solutions, and then we're going to go to information barriers. So information barriers is basically made up of segments and policies, really. So we segment based on department, based on a company, based on an attribute, based on groups. So a lot of different things we can do. We're going to look at departments here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at three different departments. Now, I am going to use finance department. This is actually linked to a finance group. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to recreate three new segments here, and I'm going to use department. So we're going to first off go with finance department, right? And so this filter that I'm going to use here is actually going to be, so here's all the filters we can use, right? We can use location, mail nickname, postal code, proxies, and then the 15 attributes, and then different additional attributes we can use. But I'm going to use the department here, and we're going to call this, and this is just going to be finance. And that's it. So we just go on next and submit, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to create me another department or another segment that will be our sales department. And so we're going to drop this down here to department and sales. Okay, and we're going to do that. Then I'm going to do another one. I don't necessarily need to do this other one, but we could do a variety of things here. And I'll just give you an example. So I'm going to do finance department. And this department rather, is going to be, no. I said finance department. It's not what I meant. I meant executive department. And so we're going to do department equals executive. It's not executives. It's executive. I verified that, but there we go. So we've got three different segments here. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a couple policies actually, and we could do more than one couple, but we're going to do a couple policies at least to make sure that the sales department cannot communicate with the finance department. Okay. And this has got to be bidirectional. So we're going to say sales cannot communicate with finance department. Okay. And finance department cannot communicate with sales department. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into policies here. We're going to click policies, and I'm going to start with sales. And so we're going to create a new policy here. We'll create a new policy here, and I'm going to call this sales to finance block. Okay, lets me know what it is. It's sales to finance block, right? Communication from sales to finance is blocked. Choose a segment, and I'm going to choose sales. That's our segment, our assigned segment details. And we're going to block here, and then I'm going to choose finance department. Okay, and this allow moderation right here basically allows, if I choose this, then they could be in the same meeting. However, they would not be able to chat. They would not be able to communicate with each other than the fact that they could be in the meeting. That's it. So it's a moderated um, collaboration, if you will. So, all right, so we're going to go next here. I'm going to set this policy to active. So this is, what was this? So this was sales. This was finance to sales block. Okay, I'm going to enable that policy. Pretty straightforward here. So now we're going to do, once this sets up, we're going to do the other directions. So did sales to finance. We're going to go finance to sales. To sales again, block. And then we're going to go finance department. Okay. Let me double check, see what I know I'm doing here. Finance department, block, and sales department. Okay, getting the moderation there. We're going to leave that there. And we're going to turn this policy on here. And I'm going to submit this. So we have, just double checking, it can be confusing at times. So we've got finance to sales block. We're also blocking sales to finance block. So bidirectional, if you are in those two departments, not groups, but departments, you cannot collaborate, communicate with each other via Teams. Now, it does take some time. We won't be able to show this, but it does take some time for this to take effect. It can take anywhere from 24 hours easily. And so I'm gonna create another policy here, and this is just where we could create. And I'm gonna just show you this. I'm gonna create this here, executive to finance and sales allow. Now this is assumed because we don't, but you could do a one directional. So I could say executive could communicate with finance and sales, but not the other way around. I could do that. But I'm going to say executive finance sales, and I'm just going to show you why on an allow policy what's a little bit different here. So first of all, we're going to go executive department. Okay. And then I'm going to allow, but when we allow, we have to choose the two departments we're allowing it to, but we also have to choose we have to choose all departments basically that's involved in the collaboration and communication here. So we're going to choose all of them, and then we're going to click next. Going to activate that policy, and we'll cross our fingers and see if we get our policy to go here. Okay. All right. So that is our policy. We've got it all allowed, and then we just finally can click in here. They're all allowed here, but we click in here, go to policy applications. See if we can load this up here. It may not load. That was one that I had to cancel. We're just going to apply all policies, and it doesn't actually look like it does anything, but eventually this will pop up. But it is essentially done. All of our policies are created now. And of course, we can do multiple policies here. But we have what we've done is we've created segments for each of our departments that we want to be involved in our barriers, and then we created policies around those that basically says, okay, if you're in the finance to sales, if you're in the finance department, you cannot communicate to sales. That's blocked. And if you're in the sales department, you cannot communicate to finance. That is blocked. If you're in the executive department, you can communicate to finance in sales. What I could do here also is I could say, however, if you're in the sales to executive block, okay, so sales block executive, turn that policy on and submit. Okay. So now what we've done is executive can communicate with both of these. Okay. And really, by that, there wouldn't be any reason why finance wouldn't be able to communicate with executive, because there's no policy blocking that. But we have said that sales cannot communicate back to finance. Um, it'd be interesting. Next time I do a video, I may just catch you up on how this turned out. But when we get back to that point, but otherwise, it's going to take quite a while for it. 24 hours potentially. I'll check on it later and probably tomorrow. But it, for all intents and purposes, that's how we set up information barriers in Microsoft Purview. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and thanks for watching.